1. Follow along now as we listen to verse 1.
Rev 8, 1 NKJV. 1. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Question. What does the silence in heaven signify in this verse?
Pastor Guzik, could you give us your insights on Revelation chapter 8, verse 1?
Happy to do that, Bill. I interprets the silence in heaven as a solemn introduction to the eternal Sabbath rest of the people of God, commencing with the Lamb's reading the book heretofore sealed up. However, I would also like to hear from Mr. Fosse.
Thank you, Pastor Guzik. I agree with your interpretation. However, I would add as to the eternal Sabbath rest of the people of God, commencing with the Lamb's reading the book heretofore sealed up.
3 commentators agree on the fundamental interpretations of this verse. They all see the silence in heaven as a solemn introduction to the eternal Sabbath rest of the people of God, commencing with the Lamb's reading the book heretofore sealed. As John writes the next verse, a question comes to mind. What is the significance of the 7 angels and the 7 trumpets in this verse?
Rev 8-2 NKJV, verse 2. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets.
All 3 commentators agree on the fundamental interpretation of this verse. They all see the 7 angels and the 7 trumpets as God's battle alarm during the Great Tribulation. You may ask why trumpets and not, let's say, bugles? Well, trumpets have a significant meaning. Throughout history, we see trumpets used to assemble for battle, while bugles were used to direct soldiers during the battle.
Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound.
I would like to find out what our 3 commentators say about this verse. First, we'll start with Pastor Guzik. Your insights on this verse?
Thanks, Bill. I would be happy to share my thoughts on this verse. In brief, some see this angel as Jesus, functioning as a mediator. Do you agree with this, Aaron?
Thanks for asking, Pastor. I do agree with you. The figure holding the censer could be Jesus functioning as a mediator. What is your opinion, Adam?
I agree with both of you. However, I would like to add that this figure, I believe, is Jesus is acting as the high priest, offering the prayers of his church.
In comparing these 3 observations on this verse, we see that Guzik and Fawcett both suggest the angel could be seen as Jesus acting as a mediator. Clark, however, interprets the angel as performing the role of a priest. We know that Jesus is not only a mediator, but also our high priest. We know that God prizes the prayers of his children above all else. To God, the prayers of his children are a sweet aroma. The concept of prayers being a sweet aroma to God is found in several places in the Bible. First of all, in Revelation 5:8, describes the prayers of the saints as golden bowls full of incense. Psalms 141, verse 2, also compares prayers to incense, saying, "May my prayer be set before you like incense." And Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 2, verses 15 through 16, believers are described as fragrance of Christ to God. In Ephesians 5:2, Paul speaks of Christ's love for us and his sacrifice as a sweet-smelling aroma to God. In the Old Testament, offerings made to God are often described as sweet aroma to the Lord, such as in Leviticus chapter 1, verse 9. These verses suggest that just as incense rises to heaven in smoke and fragrance, so does the earnest prayers of believers rise to God as something sweet and pleasant to him. This metaphor underscores the value and significance God places on our prayers. It is amazing to think that our prayers can be pleasing to God in this way. What does this tell you about the nature of prayer and its role in your spiritual life?
The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up.
In talking with Pastor Guzik and A.R. Fawcett, who interpret the hail and fire and blood as ecological disasters, while on the other hand, Clark sees them as metaphors for the effects of sedition in Judea. You decide who is right. I tend to favor Guzik's and Fawcett's interpretation.
Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. And a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed.
Guzik and Aaron R. Fawcett interpret the burning mountain and the sea turning into blood as further ecological disasters. However, Clark does not provide a specific interpretation for these symbols. In thinking about this verse, what could the burning mountains and the sea turning into blood represent? We will conclude this week's study by listening to John as he reads the last two verses of chapter 8.
Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound."
In comparing the interpretations of Guzik and Fawcett, the darkening of a third of the sun, moon, and stars as a significant celestial event, Clark does not provide a specific interpretation for this event. I hope this analysis helps deepen your understanding of Revelation chapter 8. Let me know if you have any other questions or need further clarifications. You may write me, email me at sarge, S-A-R-G-E, 1945 at gmail.com. Once again, sarge, S-A-R-G-E, 1945@gmail.com. Thank you. God bless and have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this video. We would like to see you in our Sunday morning forums at Fellowship Bible Church, 2827 County Road 220, Middleburg, Florida. We hold these forums beginning at 9:30 a.m.